Okay, whenever you're ready, Sarah.
All right, let me get my hammer. Oh. This meeting is called to order. This is a meeting of the Lincoln Heights Neighborhood Council Planning and Land Use Committee. Secretary Sanchez or Vincent, roll call, please.
Okay, Sarah,
Present.
Nancy,
Present.
Benny,
Present.
Vincent, present, Fernanda, absent. We have
Great.
quorum.
Thank you, Vince. I didn't have enough time to like publicize the meeting as much as I wanted to, but okay, so now we're going to move on to item number 2, non-agenda public comment. If there's anybody from the public who wishes to comment on something that's not on the agenda, please raise your hand or press *9. You have 2 minutes to speak.
Not seeing any.
Okay, committee announcements. Are there any committee members that have any announcements?
I don't.
I don't either. All right. Anybody? Okay. So item number 4, Planning and Land Use Committee. A, presentation. The presentation is called Protect DTLA Garment Jobs. The speaker is Nayantara Banerjee from the Garment Worker Center. That's downtown. So
Okay.
Nancy?
Yes.
Hi.
Hi, everyone. Nayantara is on the attendee side. I see her, she raised her hand. She has a presentation.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I moved her over to be panelist. If she could accept it, and then does she need to use the share screen?
Oh, let's see. Can she unmute herself?
Yeah, she can unmute herself.
Okay.
Hi there. Yes.
Hi.
Thank you so much for allowing me to join today's meeting. I understand I have 10 minutes. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, great. I apologize. I did. We were working to get a member to join me, but unfortunately, no one was able to join me at this time, especially not knowing exactly when after public comment I'd be available. But I'm going to speak on behalf of the full membership at Garment Worker Center. So my name, I'm Nayantara Banerjee. I do industry research and strategic partnerships for the Garment Worker Center in downtown Los Angeles. GWC has over 20 years of history fighting sweatshops with our members, garment workers, as leaders in this fight in Los Angeles. But the LA garment industry has a history going back 130 years. We just passed worker-led regulation across the state of California that puts an end to sweatshop wages and holds brands accountable for the wages in their supply chains, really setting California apart as a leader in ethical fashion. And this has already inspired a similar bill at the federal level. However, discriminatory land use and zoning policies throughout the downtown Los Angeles 2040 community plan threaten thousands of workers and hundreds of businesses that make up the largest garment producing area of the United States. 83% of the value of the nation's cut and sew sales come from LA. And these LA manufacturers and garment workers are the same ones who produced all of our masks and PPE, risking their own well-being throughout the pandemic. Our workers in this industry are essential, which is what we've learned. And yet there was no outreach for at least 7 years from the city planning department about the planned rezoning of the fashion district downtown. I mean, this industry has literally been ignored, even though LA Mayor Garcetti created a program called LA Protects to get manufacturers and garment workers to produce masks when they wanted to pay attention to this industry, right? Once we learned about the downtown LA 2040 community plan late last summer, we were successful in getting the CPC to commission a study of the impact of this plan on the garment industry in LA, which should be completed within the next month. And we also organize focus groups with garment workers and with business owners for the city planning department. We took LA city planners and authors of the commission report that I mentioned and staff from Councilmember De Leon's office on a tour of the fashion district, where they got to see firsthand some of the 1,400 plus garment businesses located within and directly adjacent to downtown LA's fashion district. These are often small businesses, but this density makes fashion the second largest creative economy in Los Angeles after entertainment, and the second largest manufacturing sector after transportation. We have about 35 businesses already engaged in endorsing this campaign, from local LA-based and growing brands like Big Bud Press and Ocean and Main, to sustainable fashion leaders like Mara Hoffman. LA itself is home to 45,000 garment workers, and this is why we are the capital of garment manufacturing in the US. These are skilled garment workers who have on average 21 years of experience. They live in close proximity to the fashion district and rely on public transportation to get to and from work. They have roots and families here. If they lose their jobs, they're susceptible to homelessness. And we estimate that nearly half of garment workers will be directly impacted by this plan, either due to displacement from the fashion district of their employer or due to the disruption of this unique ecosystem in which businesses rely heavily on close proximity to other supply chain actors in the day-to-day of their operations. Strong domestic manufacturing capabilities are necessary to take advantage of recent trends in near and reshoring. And it makes more business sense now. The cost of shipping containers from Asia has gone up at least 10 times, and it takes significantly longer to get your goods due to delays at the ports. So downtown Los Angeles offers businesses quick turnarounds and replenishment with stronger oversight and quality to respond to consumer demands and reduce wasteful production. It lowers transportation costs and reduces carbon footprints. But the impact of real estate speculation on this industry has already resulted in skyrocketing rents and displacement. This plan shrinks the fashion district and splits it into 7 different zoning areas, including prohibiting garment manufacturing in some areas where buildings are currently full of garment manufacturing jobs. In the heart of the district, the plan only requires developers to maintain 1 floor, 1 FAR of job productive uses that doesn't even specify garment manufacturing. So we were asking what happens to all the jobs in a building where once 10 floors were full of garment workers and they're now just limited to 1 floor. The 2 areas where garment manufacturing would be allowed are already full of other uses like LAUSD parking lot, a Coca-Cola distribution center, big recycling centers, and art galleries. This ecosystem cannot be replaced and these workers cannot be replaced. So we have put forward proposals in response to the plan that will preserve, protect, and incentivize garment manufacturing. And I will, I don't think I can drop it in the chat, but I will, and I can't share my screen. So the website is protectdtlagarmentjobs.org. And I'll just briefly run through our strategies for preserving the industrial uses of the garment manufacturing, which we see as critical to safeguarding employment for this workforce. We would, and for this workforce and for the hundreds of local small businesses that make up and utilize this district, we seek to ensure the maintenance of the existing boundaries of the fashion district. We demand that the city ensure no net loss of garment manufacturing capacity and jobs in the sector. And we want to maintain, here I go. Thank you so much for giving me the chance to share my screen. And we want to maintain accessibility for business operations. And that means things like freight elevators, loading zones, and loading bays, and other features which facilitate the movement of goods and materials. I think I saw a raised hand, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's one of the committee members. He's just coming into the to the panelist. But you can continue. Oh,
okay, great, got it. We also seek to protect the industry from the real estate speculation that it's already struggling under. We see only allowing affordable housing that is accessible to our members is really important. The introduction of market rate housing and other commercial uses like hotels has already resulted in factory closures and a loss of jobs. So we encourage that housing that's developed in the fashion district is accessible. We also would demand that the public hearing process for adaptive reuse continues. And lastly, we have put forward some a proposal for incentivizing this industry as the second largest creative economy in the city after Hollywood. The LA garment industry should receive recognition and support from the city in the form of incentives and investment. The workers and small businesses who make up this sector are committed to growing the industry ethically and sustainably. New legislation has created a level playing field for compliant businesses, and now recent trends towards nearshoring point to the need for incentives to bolster this growth. But there really is not an effort from the city to support this group, this community of immigrant low-wage workers. So that's our strategy. You can read more about it on our website again, which is protectdtlagarmentjobs.org. And I'd like to open it up for questions. And we're here to ask for your recommendation to the full board to support our proposals.
Sarah? Sarah? Oh,
I'd like to say something.
yeah, Richard?
Yeah, I have like roughly 7 years experience in the fashion district, and there's a lot of stuff that goes unseen, and I really appreciate like your movement. Thank you. That's pretty much it.
Thank you, Richard. Does anybody else have any questions?
Oh, I didn't know I was unmuted. Hi, I have a question. So the downtown community plan, that's a specific plan, right?
Yes.
Yes, it's just like the CASP. And so they're taking post-industrial, or what they call post-industrial, quote, vacant land, and then using adaptive reuse to turn it into, well, a lot of the time market rate housing. But like, I know with the CASP, they were supposed to retain a certain amount of the light manufacturing zoning, whatever, but now like they kind of came up with the CASP like 20 years ago, and now they're letting developers sort of trade off and like increase density by like by omitting the industrial. Right, Vince? Aren't they paying like some sort of fee?
They pay fee into the housing or low-income housing outside of its district. That's how they're getting around it.
Yeah, because I mean, these industrial corridors have like kept our communities going for the past 150 years. And up until like a decade ago, you could walk to your job, and now they've turned them all into condos. So people have to take the bus to Vernon for jobs now or whatever. Yeah, it's just really, and then they've gotten rid of the bus lines to Vernon and East LA.
And what we're also understanding is that, you know, the city had no plan for where these folks actually, where these jobs would even go. Vernon itself is pretty full. And that these jobs would actually, if they moved, you know, that is to say, like if this industry is able to stay afloat, they would move to El Monte. And for our members who live in and around downtown, including Lincoln Heights, though they have, I would say also, they've also been priced out of Lincoln Heights as residential tenants, you know, they would have 1.5-hour bus commutes one way to get to El Monte.
And it's not like the process is filthy of making clothing. I mean, we still have the chrome platers and all those guys. I mean, they got rid of the diamond district too, the jewelry, whatever, gold district or whatever. It's just like, They got rid of Grand Central Market. There was a time when nobody wanted to live downtown. It was for poor people and like, you know, people who didn't make it big. I don't know. So Kevin Huizar's going on trial. Kevin De Leon's there for the interim till 2023. When do they need to update the, what is it? The
DTLA 2040 community plan.
yeah, like when are they going to totally ratify the draft or whatever?
So it's gone through 2 hearings with the City Planning Commission or CPC, and the city, the planning department is submitting these two reports, including the report on the fashion district. It's really a report on the fashion district from a through a development lens. And a report on mandatory inclusionary housing, which Kevin De Leon, as council member from the 14th district, has asked for in downtown. And so both of those reports should be out next month. And then the city council's plum committee will have to meet to hear on the plan, on the whole plan, with those 2 reports being considered. And then it will move to the full city council. So that process could take, you know, we don't really know. It could be within the next couple of months. I know there's a lot of pressure from community organizations that were able to engage in the process. Like we were only made aware of this last year, but there are other groups, including like Central City United, which is a coalition that includes Little Tokyo Service Centers, Sika, LA Can, some other folks from Chinatown and Skid Row. And they have been working on this for years. And so they really want to see this plan move forward as soon as possible so that they can start getting housing built. You know, but it's unclear. You know, we are, of course, fully understanding the need for like housing at various affordability levels, specifically like deeply low income and very low income housing levels, because that is, you know, because this industry for a very long time was a sweatshop industry and our members would need housing. But we also understand that no one really has advocated for industrial urban uses until we spoke up. And so I'm not sure if that will, you know, if this will delay the plan further, but the goal would be, I think, is for them to adopt it sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I remember they were coming after the fashion district a couple of years ago for money laundering with, or something like that, you know, there were all these articles, it's like China.
I was there.
So Curran Price is also representing UCD9. So is he accessible? Is he talking to the people or no?
Yeah, so we have been, we've met with Curran Price, we've met with Marquise Harris Dawson, he's the chair of Plum. We've met several times with KDL's office, of course, because they represent our district. But we are really focusing on pushing Kevin De Leon's office to support our recommendations, because Curran Price, Marquise Harris Dawson, actually, and also Bob Blumenfeld, who is also on Plum, and Cedillo, all have asked, you know, basically they just want to know where KDL stands on it. And so that's a part of also our, in getting, you know, I've presented also to the Downtown Los Angeles Neighborhood Council, and I'm working with them on their community impact statement that they will submit that will support us. But to push Kevin De Leon to really recognize that this industry needs protection and these workers need protections. And then through that, we anticipate that more council members will support once Kevin De Leon comes on board.
Cool. Yeah, I made some mega case files. They're in the supporting documents of all of the initial submissions and secondary submissions from the hearing. You know, there was a time when politicians couldn't mess with labor like they do now. I was just reading something about the Southern Pacific Railroad workers. But you know, the DTLA of Huizar actually was called a crime against humanity by UNESCO for totally kicking everybody out of their neighborhood and erasing it. I think that the issues are a lot bigger than like they want to build affordable housing. They're kind of scrambling right now about equity. And yeah, so I have all the letters submitted to the case file. You know, there's a lot of like stuff about trees, and then yeah, it has a workers' rights stuff. But yeah, everybody should read those letters.
Yeah.
And keep in mind, the original design didn't take into consideration for the service sector of the workers. None of the original plans have that, because the initial plan was for a tech boom business society. As we know, most of the investors that are down in downtown LA, a lot of them are connected to the tech boom business. This is why we had special interest with Amazon that wanted the piggy backyard, and that deal didn't go through. And when you look at the modifications of the planning and land uses ordinances and their definitions, readaptive reuse never took into consideration and was a bypass of the environmental report on these lands. A lot of those properties, whether or not they have chemicals on them, or sometime it depends on the history of what they were used for, even the light industrial chemicals, they would never meet CEQA requirements today or the Federal Clean Act. And so this is why we're seeing the striking down of some of these agencies, because you could never get none of these plans passed. And why in Avenue 34, when the council took it on, was also found that the history wasn't even talked about or known about to the state. So some of these projects, while they need to go through the environmental impact report, to expedite them was readaptive reuse. And that's why they're using it. And also the fund for housing, a lot of the developments, while they may be required to create affordable housing, the loophole to put it into another account, no developer will ever use low-income housing in those areas. That money is going to be pushed into an account which will never be used. We have the Quimby Fund from the park that has millions and millions of dollars in it that was created for park space when you were required to put a park in your area. And the developers had to pay and never did. So we know that those funds will probably be there and they'll be very hard to spend. So I think we have to take all those things into consideration, because those loopholes are what actually have kept us in this housing crisis. Because we try to incentivize too much the corporations. So I know you mentioned that in this letter, we wanted to incentivize them. Sometimes we have to step back and look at what the history is and make sure that we're not stepping into the same hole. Because sometimes by incentivizing the developer and the city creating those out of, from tax brackets or however they may, or, density bonuses from the state, we're also shooting ourselves in the same foot. Because what has to have happened is we need politicians that are going to go out and say, look, if you don't put these in, then there's nothing else and you can't build here. Well, that may stunt the growth of the city. We are either going to build a society where we're going to fail at the end because there is no housing. The industry, like you said, will move to El Monte and possibly further. The maps that we have are pushing them as far out as Riverside. And even then they're outpriced in those areas. So this is some of the things that we have to take into consideration on even public transportation and how that's triggering, a crisis now too, because the people are not riding, they're driving. Metro's own records show that it's not picking up. We need to take those things before we make some serious moves on these, because I do think that they corner us in situations like this. And we often feed into like giving them bonuses when that's one of the major problems when you see that housing fund and how they slip out of it. So that's something to take into consideration in downtown, because downtown definitely is not being designed for workers or even maybe light manufacturing. And that's the live-in workspace aspect of the planning. But that's as much as they want to see there. Very much like if you look at the New York model, they're pretty much doing the same thing here in LA. If you look at any of those, they were only very light to very light chemicals. Everything big was gone. And we're turning to housing, readaptive reuse, and we're seeing it with the Sears building, and we're also might see it with the county hospital. So those buildings, while they were established for hospitals, like in medical industrial, they're now going to be considered housing. So, and then who will be able to live there and how much will it be? That's still up in the air of affordability. Because even now under affordability, we're having a hard time with people. If they lose their housing now, more than likely they will not be able to live in their community again, and they will have to move more than 20 miles away. So there's serious things we got to take in.
Is LADBS messing with any of the shops? Like citing them?
I don't know. I mean, I think that overall, like this industry is, like I said, it's been ignored because the state of the condition of a lot of the sweatshop buildings is pretty horrendous. So I doubt it. But we are, you know, in terms of like for us, like when we're talking about incentivizing businesses, but we're talking about really small businesses, but just like a high number of them. There are a lot of small brands, a lot of like independent designers, including, you know, even your own Nancy Salasota, who's an incredible designer, you know, that are working in Los Angeles because it gives them so much better oversight and quality production. But not, you know, we're not welcoming, we have had major campaigns against like some of the big and really bad exploiters, like Forever 21, Fashion Nova, and Ross, Dress for Less, you know, who have been the brands at the top of the supply chain that have dictated prices that result in sub-minimum wages and have created the conditions that lead to sweatshops in LA. So we're moving away from that and trying to support this new generation of businesses that produces more responsibly and will be great employers for our members, but our members also need training. Our members need support to meet like the higher quality demands of these brands. And they've been de-skilled over all this time working in sweatshop conditions and producing like high volumes of cheap clothing. So, you know, that's our vision, and we really can't achieve that vision without, you know, if the industry is displaced.
Right.
You know, I'm working, I would be open to continuing the conversation further here or over email, you know, to see if what ways your committee or council would want to support these workers and this community.
For sure. It's like the same struggle as our neighborhood.
Yeah.
Jobs.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and the jobs, and unfortunately, we're finding that jobs and housing are being pitted against one another, which is certainly not the case. We need both, right? And where the landscape for manufacturing jobs in Los Angeles is just shrinking and shrinking. And as you said, there's been this, you know, there's this focus on tech. We're in competition with tech, we're in competition with cannabis industry expansion through downtown, you know, for space, you know, and unfortunately, you know, but manufacturing is one of those jobs that has a much greater multiplier effect because it is employing folks in a community who spend their money in that community, as opposed to creating, you know, incomes that create more generational wealth for folks who already have it.
Yeah. Forever 21 sold to Blackstone, their headquarters in Lincoln Heights, for like $1 billion. So
Yeah.
it's pretty scary stuff.
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to write a letter. So we already did like a sign-on letter for not Central City. What was it? The community plan sign-on letter with Siaka a while ago.
Yeah.
We're going to submit something for the city planning file, and then for the council file as well. They have a council file open right now. And
Yes.
yeah, so that's really important. It came out in May. So
That's great.
so we have all the supporting documents on the website here. So it has all the contact information and all the links to the case files. if anybody wants to write letters. And yeah, so we're gonna have this letter at, if we approve it, we're going to ultimately approve it at the general board on the 4th. And then we'll issue it.
So what I'll do right now is make a motion to prepare a letter in support for Council File 220617, which is the Downtown Los Angeles Community Plan Update 2040.
Great.
Is there a second?
And yeah, sorry.
Is there a second?
I second.
Nancy seconds. Speak up, people. No, I'm kidding. Okay, Nancy seconds. Okay, now, is there any board discussion? Any more questions or comments? Okay, not seeing any. We gotta let the public, if anybody in the public wishes to make a comment before we take our vote, you can do so by pushing *9 or raising your hand. I don't see any, Sarah.
Oh, Vince, real quick, can you pull up the supporting document? I made it,
Let me see. Is it the council file hyperlink?
it's just on the supporting documents on the agenda.
Oh, give me 1 second.
I made a fat mother council file thing. But yeah, no, it's interesting. You know, you read the council file, you think there are amendments made, things are slipped in, there's new activity on it as well. So yeah, it's good to read the letters.
And I was just going to add that you'll see our letters in there from last summer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because this has been going on since 2017. Yeah. Oh, Vince, you can't see it?
We don't. It takes me straight to the agenda, but it doesn't. Let me bring it up so you can see it. Give me 1 second.
Oh. Just
It
go to
doesn't-
lhnc.card.co. What?
So when we go here, normally we click, but it doesn't go to supplemental document.
What?
Takes us straight to the website. I mean, straight to the agenda.
Okay, can you go to the website LHNC dot
Right here?
just type in LHNC like into the search box? No, I mean, look up the website. Go to go type in a website. LHNC.
Right here,
Oh.
Lincoln Heights.
Just LHNC.CARRD.co. .CARRD. No, CARRD. Sorry. CARRD.co. CO, yeah. Sorry. That's our little link tree unit. Yeah, so at the top there. So I have the supporting docs on that one, I guess. Yeah, so supporting docs, a green button. So it takes you to a Google Drive. Booyah. So, yeah, item 4A. So we have 2. Oh, not that one. That's just my letter. But sorry, guys. Yeah, that one, the number 2. Yeah. So if you scroll down, yeah, new activity. And then it's got all the links and stuff from May 2022. And then, yeah, so cool.
Okay, so they can get it from there, right? The link, and we'll put it on the website.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with the website, but in any case.
Okay, let me go back.
All right, cool. So any public comments on the all the fashion district getting phased out for the new development downtown with the downtown community plan? Please raise your hand or press *9. Vince, do you see anybody?
No, I don't see anybody.
Okay, so we're gonna take for a
What-
vote.
I have,
What's up?
what is Melanie? Melanie's on the board, isn't she, on the land use?
Yep.
Okay, let me just bring her over. Okay, Let me just see if Melanie doesn't have any, because let the record reflect Melanie came in at 6:38.
Sorry, guys, I got off work late. I'm here.
Did you have any questions, Melanie, on the item that we're taking?
No, I tried to kind of read through everything that I could just at least get up to date. So I'm okay. I don't have any questions right now.
Okay,
Okay, thank you. And
Okay,
have
sorry,
Brian
guys.
At our general board too. This is just to approve the letter to take.
Right.
all right, so we're gonna take it for a vote then on approving the letter. So I have a motion, we have a second.
Yes,
Can you do roll call, Vince?
yes. Sarah,
Yes.
Benny,
Yes.
Melanie,
Yes.
Richard,
Simon.
Nancy,
Yes.
and Vincent. Yes, we have a unanimous vote.
Motion carries. Thank you for presenting.
Thank you very much. Take care.
Thank
Cool.
you,
All
Nayantara.
right, thank you. All right. So we're gonna move on to the next item. Bum, ba, bum, bum, bum. Here's my agenda. Okay, item 4B, discussion and possible action on letter to HCID, LADBS and CD1 seeking support for the Benitez family, victims of July 17th, 2022 apartment fire at 2219 North Griffin Avenue. Vince, do you see anybody on the line?
Yes, we have a
Gabby?
one caller, user one, and then we have a Graham.
Okay, so if you're from the Benitez family or a friend who wants to speak on this item, please raise your hand and we'll call on you right now. Okay.
I don't see any hands.
Oh, you don't?
No, I can allow them to speak. If anybody, if you don't know how to use it, you're gonna get prompted to be allowed to talk. If you're here in support of the Benitez family, just hit the button to allow yourself to talk and you can start speaking.
Can you say it in Spanish, Vince?
O si están aquí para hablar en favor de la familia Benítez, pueden levantar la mano o puchar la estrella 9 si está hablando por teléfono. Están hablando por celular, les puedo dar la oportunidad ahorita a hablar. Nomás tienen que puchar el botón y les va a permitir hablar si están hablando en favor de la familia Benítez. Okay,
All right.
that's one. Let me check the other one. Hello?
Hello, I am not familiar with the family. You said the Benitez family, but I wish them all the best. Thank you.
All right, thanks, man.
Okay, so I don't think we have anybody, Sarah.
Okay, so well, I'm just gonna do a little quick synopsis. So yeah, the Benitez family's house burned down. As you know, there's a GoFundMe for them. It's 4 people, the son and the daughter and the mom and the dad, and they've been in the tent in the parking lot for the past week. They got a hotel room because somebody helped them out. So, you know, we've had this string of really, really, really bad fires. I think we've had like 4 in the past couple months, and we had nobody's getting back to us, the elected public officials, right? So we want to write a letter for the Benitez family. Hopefully, if city council's back in session and not on recess anymore, maybe they can help. I know Kevin De Leon, one of his field deputies, stopped over to visit the family last week, even though it's outside of his district, but CD1 has not. So, yes, a letter. Mhm.
So I'll make the motion to write a letter to HCID, LADBS and CD1 seeking support for the Benitez family, victims of the 7/19/22 apartment fire at 2219 North Griffin. Is there a second?
I'll second. It's Mel.
Melanie seconds. Any board discussion, Sarah?
I went over and I visited last week, spent some time. Yeah, there's just no protocol for when stuff like this happens, right? To rent control apartments, and the city needs to come up with a plan for when stuff like this happens. People can't sit around for a week waiting for a fire report or for 2 weeks, you know? So, Vince, is there protocol like, you know, what disasters, stuff like that? Like what is, for
There's
instance, like,
none.
even
There's
like the
nothing.
Red Cross said to the family, well, you have to choose. Either we'll give you a hotel room for a couple of days or we'll give you food. They made them choose the two things.
Well, no, unfortunately, we don't have a system of fire. Some time ago, way back, there was an ordinance they wanted to put in about landlords having insurance for their tenants.
Mhm.
And it was switched back off for the tenants to have the insurance, and it never kind of went forward. But it would be something to put in the event that this happened, because, you know, sometimes the homeowners, they know, they don't know. If they have insurance and a fire happens, usually the homeowners don't want to make a move because, for example, like if this fire was faulty wiring, then they would be paying all this money ahead and the insurance would never cover it because it was a preventable and the liability file on the owner. But there should be some type of insurance that would cover them to be able to have like renter's insurance where something like this happened, it would cover them until either new housing is found or help them get new housing and provide food, kind of like regular insurance does, but they often don't have it. I know they have renter's insurance, but it's pretty expensive. The average person might not be able to afford it.
It's kind of ridiculous, right?
Yeah, I mean, there should be
Considering like they're doing rent control units, or some people are doing like Section 8, but then they're just, you know, slumlord Section 8 who just keeps those units just falling apart, you know? They're getting that money. It's like if you have a car, you have to have insurance, right? That's pretty wild. There needs to be an ordinance.
okay. I don't see anybody else's hand up.
All right, so we're gonna, any public comments on the Benitez family of Lincoln Heights? Did you raise your hand or press *9?
I don't see any.
All right, we're gonna take it for a vote for a letter that we're gonna issue.
Okay, are we ready?
Yep.
Sarah,
Yes.
Nancy,
Yes.
Benny,
Yes.
Melanie,
Yes.
Richard,
Simon.
and Vincent. Yes. Motion carries.
Motion carries. Thank you, everybody. We will issue that letter, have it for the next meeting. Okay, so now we're gonna move to the one big item. Okay, so item 4C. Presentation, demolition of 1926 and 1932 North Eastlake Ave. 2 homes, 1 home and 1 boarding house, built in 1885 and 1910. Community Q&A and discussion. So I have, I guess I'll just read it. C1, discussion and possible action on letter to LADBS and CD14 regarding pending demolition permits on 2 rent-controlled homes, boarding house at 1926 and 1932 North Eastlake. LADBS demo application number, you know, blah, blah, blah. 3 families were evicted through the Ellis Act on January 30th, 2022. There's a total of 3 units, but it's 10 bedrooms. Purchased on September 10th, 2021. The demo applications were submitted on March 15th, 2022, right after they bought the property. Applicant, Maximus Properties. So they bought the property, kicked the tenants out, filed for the demo permits, and now the demo permits are pending. So Vince, I have the supporting document on that other website I sent you to, the LHNC.CARRD. Yeah. Oh, there it is. Okay. So this is on Eastlake. It's half a block up from Main Street. It's on the right.
It's this one right here, right?
Yeah. So these houses are really old. So those are the demolition permits. And then I have you know, I go back in time in the old maps and I show the house, but keep scrolling down, Vince. There's the track. All right, keep going there. I got some photos. All right, stop. So it's those two houses. And so the house that's from 1885 is on the right, and then the house on the left is from 1910. And in the back, it has these connected older, like, it's kind of this boarding house that's from the 20s too. So if you see the one underneath, it has that L-shaped connected area. So there were a lot of families living here. It has like a total of 5 bathrooms, you know. The houses are in good condition. Keep scrolling down, Vince. Okay, so this is like the interior of the yellow house, right? It looks nice. And any more photos here? Oh, my PDF's all messed up. Yeah, so the developer got the property, wants to demolish our historic homes that are actually in good shape. And it's a multifamily property and it's rent controlled, right? I'm assuming he's going to put an application in for new construction for a TOC or a high rise. The property was marketed for like USC investors. This is the same developer or LLC that got the apartments across from Lincoln Park. You know, all those bungalow house apartments. And then got a place on Gates and flipped that, and then got a house on Workman and tore it down, and have been renting it out for like gangster movies filming before they tore it down, and then had Ellis Act to those families. So this is some an entity that is habitually acquiring properties and Ellis acting over and over. And so this demolition permit was hanging up since March, and somebody sent us a photo, so we looked into it. And the city still does the minimal to notify you. They just put the blue paper sign up, and it says on the sign, demolish all structures. I was like, what the hell? But, you know, we're making it visible. We're letting it be known. You know, our HPOZ is small. This is the oldest neighborhood in LA. You know, our HPOZ is tiny, and anyway, it doesn't really protect from a lot of stuff. So, you know, this is going to be the future of Lincoln Heights if like we don't like really make it visible about what's going on.
So this one, we're doing a letter, right?
Yeah, we're going to do a letter to LADBS and CD14
So
in regard to the demolition that's pending.
so I'll make the motion to have a letter. And this is not supporting the demolition.
Opposing it.
1926, 1935 North Eastlake Avenue.
Mm-hmm.
Do I have a second?
Yeah, second it.
Sarah seconds. Any board comment? I don't see any. Any public comment? Oh, Benny. Benny,
Ben, you got
Okay, sorry about that. Yeah. No, this is serious stuff. I mean, what Sarah just said is really important. Like, if we don't start doing stuff about this, then they're just gonna keep on doing it. And so, my question is like, what else can we do besides, you know, write the letter? And I guess what I'm trying to find out is how much teeth is there, like, to the letter?
Well, you know, there's certain avenues people go through. They try to do historic preservation, right? To fight people demolishing, right? So, you know, I got pretty deep into it. But, you know, a lot of our homes are built by unknown people, you have to go downtown to actually find information about houses built before like 1905 or 1900, right? The thing is, It's not like we're trying to save old houses for the sake of like keeping the identity of Lincoln Heights. Like that we just want nice houses for rich people to buy up and fix up. No, this house has a lot of housing in it. It has 10 bedrooms, like, you know, it's actually like a lot of units. Where the families went, I don't know. But everything's coming up from the south. It's coming up from, Alhambra Avenue, UIC, whatever. And this one's going to be really serious. I guess it's about, I mean, you can't just get mad and jump up and down and scream and yell, but by making it visible, you actually do a lot. We're watching the developers. We know what you're doing. And that's what I have to say.
Well, and another thing, Benny, to take on some of these things, all of us can write our own letters. The more we write to them, and they don't have to be like super detailed. You could even copy some of what we're putting on in our letters and have neighbors do it too in a network. Because the more that's written on it, in the event that there's ever a lawsuit, those letters are evidence of what the people did not want. And even though the council letter has some teeth to it, right? It doesn't help to add more teeth by adding more public letter to it.
And the letters to the council person?
It can be, well, these you would address to council and you would also address them to city planning. The very same people that we send these letters to, you would send your personal letter to.
Yeah.
Okay, because it's not in the supporting documents. Are we gonna be able to get it up?
Oh, the
there?
letter?
Yeah, because when I go on the neighborhood council
Oh.
and I click on agenda, only the agenda comes up.
It's on the link tree, I guess, or on our links.
We'll get it up on there, and then
Okay,
before anything, the letter will be created so that it's going to be on the general board. So when we take it to the general, you will have it up on the
all right,
Yeah.
and then
yes.
you'll have more time to review it and even write your own letter possibly. And when you write your own, you don't need approval from the board.
Well, okay. The other motive I think would be for them to do this is to get away from that rent control, right? Because it'd be new construction, therefore they're not entitled to stay with rent control. They can just charge what they
Correct.
want.
Yeah.
Would that be another incentive for them to do that?
Well, it's going to depend on what they build there. So once they start getting into like the affordable housing and they're getting federal or state money, that's going to trigger what they have already, right? So we're seeing the 30-year plan from RSO. It didn't work. So right now we're losing, we're expected to lose about 10 to 15,000 units within the next 5 years. Because they already met the requirement of 30 years, right? So instead of going back and fixing it, they just said, we're keeping everything the same and we're going to add 50 years now, 55 years. So now the new deal is 55 years from now, we're kicking the can down the road to 2 more generations. We're skipping 2 generations, right? So that's why sometimes we want to make sure that these laws are effective in housing. They need housing now, not loopholes, not incentives to keep them, building, because at the end of the day, we're going to find ourselves right back in the same hole, except that I won't be here. It'll probably happen once I'm wherever I shall go. I will be either looking up or looking down, but everybody will have the same problems.
These aren't going to be covenanted unit. I mean, it's like basically what we learned with the brine is that if you're going to do like a big apartment building or whatever, TOC, you have to replace the RSO units that you destroyed, and then you have to offer those tenants right of return or first offer. The trend, I mean, with this guy too, it's like they're marketing it to young professionals. It's like the apartments across from Lincoln Park, right? Now it's $1,600 for a studio or whatever. But, this is not new stuff. Like I was talking to Rosa Leo about it. There's some book. They had an organization in the 70s in Lincoln Heights. It was called the Lincoln Heights, whatever to stop home destruction. Yeah, the Lincoln Heights Coalition to Stop Home Destruction. Because at the time, USC was going to double, like General Hospital in the 70s. So they started tearing down all the old houses in Lincoln Heights and building those ugly apartment buildings, like Cinco Puntos, the ones that are falling apart now. And they did it under the guise of saying they were building like worker housing for the hospital. So what they did is the community mobilized and took over the boards at the county level. Like you take over, you become Kevin Deal, you run for city council and then you make the decisions, It's like just, or whatever, even, not even that, but getting on these different boards. We have an HPOZ, right? We can expand that. We can, people need to join that board. And
Okay,
then
we have one person in public that has their hand up. When you unmute yourself, if you can please state your name.
Hi, this is Karina. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Ara Minassian, and I am Ara Minassian's partner. He is the one that you've listed there on your agenda. He asked me to participate because he's out of town and he received an email from, not sure who, asking for a presentation from him or us regarding this project, but he sent an email back saying that he's out of town and unable to participate today, and asked for you to wait until he's back in town so that he can participate. But nobody replied back, so I'm not sure who that person is that was in charge of communicating with the board to put this matter over for another hearing.
Yeah, that was me. So there's already a demolition permit pending, so that's one thing. Hi. And then the project itself, that's the future. So that's pretty much unrelated. But this, we were gonna have this on the Planning and Land Use Committee agenda anyway, just about the demolition. So, but thank you for calling in. Yeah.
You mean you don't want to wait for him to tell you what this is all about?
Well, we can't really, we can't talk about things, right, Vince? Like, we can't talk about things in the future, like pending projects, right? Because then it's a Brown Act violation or something.
Yeah, as long as it's on the discussion of the demolition, and this letter will be coming up on our general board. This is just a committee meeting. So if it gets approved right now, there will be a draft letter that will be considered in our general board. If he wants to come and speak on the demolition, then he can. Or
okay, when is the general board?
It's on August 4th. Thursday.
Okay.
August, yeah.
Yeah, I think that would be good because a lot of the background information you talked about earlier was wrong. So I think you need a lot of clarification, so I can clarify as much as I can and he can fill in the rest. Maximus Properties is a real estate brokerage company that has been involved in the sales of some of the properties you mentioned. It is not the company that has been doing what you said it's been doing. So I wanted to make that very clear. It's just a real estate brokerage that Ara owns.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure.
There's a lot of LLCs, and it's like LLCs are interconnected, and I know there's many parties involved, but his name's the one, and Maximus Properties is the name that's on the pending LADBS information. So
no, it's actually not. I'm the one who filed the demolition application with LADBS. Maximus Properties is not related, but I can tell you that there were no families evicted from that property whatsoever. When that property was purchased, it was purchased completely vacant because all of the residents who were in that property were family members who were the beneficiaries of a trust. And when they decided to sell the property, each family member took a portion of the income from the sale. So there were 3 different families living in those units, and all of them were essentially the sellers. None of them were tenants, and none of them were displaced. They all voluntarily decided to vacate prior to close of escrow, and there was no Ellis eviction done whatsoever. So I
Oh.
want that to be clear.
Yeah, the Ellis eviction data was, it's from a database. So, LAH, the housing department, their website's all goofy, but I'll triple check. But even family members of owners are tenants in rent controlled properties.
No, they're not family members of owners. They all vacated prior to close of escrow, which means that they all sold and they all voluntarily left. None of them were asked to leave after close of escrow. So I think that's very important for you to understand the difference between an eviction of a tenant versus when people voluntarily decide to sell an asset they co-own. For example, if you and your husband own a house together and you both decide to sell together and leave, neither of you are tenants. So
Yeah,
it's no
but
different.
it doesn't show up on the LA Housing Department Ellis Act database. So the fact that
Right.
it is, that maybe you should call up the housing department and see why it is on there, because it says it happened in January. Like, just to repeat myself, like, the data that I have is just city data. So it's not, so if it's wrong, it's the city that probably put out the wrong data, because it's in the supporting file, it has the data.
Okay, well, which is why I'm asking to wait so that we can give you a proper presentation with all of the information, so you realize that what you are presenting is false, and you realize that there's no one that's being displaced. And in fact, what's going to be replaced in this area is not market rate property at all. So it is going to be affordable housing, and it is going to allow people to be able to walk to work, like you were talking about previously. So it's really important for you to give us the opportunity to explain to you what we have as the vision for this community, which is really the vision that you have all been sharing. So I would really appreciate it if you would look this over and listen to what we have to say, rather than jump to conclusions based upon false information that you gathered from faulty databases or missing information.
All right, thanks. Yeah, we're elected public officials with the city of LA. So we interface and cross-reference with the other departments of the city. See how there's a city seal on the thing? So we're not looking for trouble or messing with people. We're just trying to do our due diligence as community members, as the role of LADBS is to outreach to the community and put up those posters that are blue that say demolition, so that the public can inquire. So the inquiries are par for the course. But yeah, so the meeting's going to be on August 4th. And then, yeah, you could do a 10-minute presentation with the screen share, and I'll send you the agenda on the first. Yeah, we'll have the agenda.
Okay, so we have an active item on, and it's going down for a vote. And the vote is to create a letter and to have it presented at our next general board. So we have a motion and a second. I'm gonna go down the list. Sarah,
Yes.
Benny,
Yes.
Nancy,
Yes.
Melanie,
Yes.
Richard,
Simon.
and Vincent. Yes, it's unanimous.
Okay, motion carries. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Sorry, I'm not on video. My head is broken. All right, thank you for calling in. Okay, so we're going to go to the next item. So this is another one. So if you've been over at Downey Park, right on the corner there of Avenue 17 and Albion, there are 2 houses boarded up. They've been boarded up for 5 years now. Vince, can you scroll up a little? So it's D, presentation, demolition of 1779 and 1781 North Albion, 2 homes built in 1885 and 1908. Community Q&A and discussion. D1, Discussion and possible action on letter to LADBS and CD1 regarding pending demolition permits on 2 rent-controlled homes at 1779 and 1781 North Albion. 2 families were evicted through November 7th, 2017 Ellis Act. Total of 2 units, 4 bedrooms. Property transferred in 2014. Demo applications were submitted in 2017 and they're pending. They've been pending for a while. And the applicant is Arenas Developments, Inc. So I have a supporting document. I found some other stuff, but so the houses are the properties. So it's 2 houses, and the property is really long, and it goes all the way down to the baseball field at Donny Park. And I've seen a lot of old pictures of families on the curb, like, you know, from the 40s and 30s at that house, black and white photos. That was the working poor area. And now it's, the park's been pretty much, quote, revitalized as Albion Riverside Park. So the person that has the property, Ellis acted the tenants in 2017 and then applied for the demolition permits and then immediately applied for a permit for new construction for 2 condos. So when I would look deeper into it, it's the same, like the owner, I think owned it. It's like was passed through family or something, but a couple years prior, the properties were in REAP with the housing department, which means that they were in such bad shape that the city made a council file for it and then forced the tenants paid rent into an escrow account to the city instead of the landlord until he fixed the property. So he did fix the property, but then immediately then kicked everybody out, maybe like a couple of years later. They're sitting there, they could go on fire like every other house, they're just chained up and they're rotting, falling apart, getting worse and worse every day. Vince, could you pull up the supporting document from that link tree thing? Oh yeah. Yeah, so those were the houses in 2016. And those are the houses now. And the roofs are all caving in. And as you can see, the properties, it's really long. Like Lincoln Heights has, you know, the tracks and the lots and the blocks were long properties. So it's like in the 70s, they built apartment buildings in the back and then they'd have an old house in the front. But now, you know, it's like people, this is sort of demolition by neglect, right? It's sitting there rotting. I don't know why it's been on the back burner with the city for so many years, but I did, oh yeah, this is interesting, these 2 WPA census cards. It says Mexican families lived there in 1939. Sorry. So, but what I found out was, now the city just put this out, 2021. City has this on its radar right now. Vince, scroll up. So it's notes that spreadsheet. Yeah. Housing development application submitted 2021 housing element annual progress report. So I found it on there. So the person saying, so the application was, they submitted another application in 2021, it looks like, and they're asking, the city's asking how many very low income units, how many low income, how many moderate and above moderate income. Are you applying for streamlining pursuant to SB 35 or density, whatever, pending? But the guy's saying 6 above moderate income units, total of 6 units. So no affordable units, no, I don't even think they have to replace the rent controlled units they kicked out. So it's kind of like what the city does. They sit like the Pasadena Avenue house. That guy had the demolition permit pending for a couple years now, you know, and it just lights on fire. It's that the city has strategic properties in proximity to like Heritage Square, it used to be, or Downey Park, or the Metro, and they kind of like keep their fingers in that, you know, they keep their hands on them, and they kind of want to dictate what happens to those properties. So that's the evidence about the city being aware. And scroll down a little bit. So these are the demo permits from 2017. And they'd have no action on them. Yeah.
So this is another letter to oppose it.
It's just like the cornfield park, it's like now we have Albion, now we have Downey Park, right? So it's like that house has a big old backyard, real long, but that's not going to be the green space for the inhabitants. They're going to sort of capitalize on the public assets, right? So the park is going to be sort of the asset using to promote this condo, which is going to be taller and bigger and, all this stuff, but also unaffordable, but also erasing our neighborhood. And to sit there and watch the houses be boarded up for years, you just kind of start thinking about, well, what should we do?
It's a waste. Well, I think we should highlight those points in a letter. So what I'll do is I'll make a motion to act on the letter, and that is for 1779, 1781 North Albion. Is there a second?
I second.
Sarah seconds.
Yeah.
Okay, is there any board comment? If not, so we can go to the public. I don't see any board comment. Is there any public? Oh, one, Benny.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, no, I was just wondering, like, so this is a letter in opposition to the demolition.
Yeah, it's to LADBS. It's sort of an inquiry. We need a direct line with them for all demolitions from now on. But it's an inquiry in that we want to be part of the dialogue of whatever happens. But also, for instance, if this goes on fire, just like all the others, we have evidence written that we're trying to talk to the city.
Mm-hmm.
When they
Okay.
implemented a lot of these things like the parks and these so-called beautifications and improvements for our neighborhood based on the demographics and the numbers, right? We're in the 99th percentile of, environmental burdens. Kids have asthma, low birth weight, low income. Then they build the park, right? For us, not. One of the things is the city's supposed to mitigate displacement, right, Vince? Sometimes in the past, they would put ICOs out, interim control ordinances, to stop people from doing what they're doing now, like tearing everything down. The purpose of the cornfield or the CASP or Downey Park revitalization isn't to displace our community. They do it because they say they're strengthening our community, just like that mural at Downey Park of, like, what is it called? Heroes of Lincoln Heights, right? So,
Yeah, that's another issue too. It's like who approved, who decided on who, because that's controversial from, in my opinion, but that's another issue. But go ahead.
Yeah, it didn't. Yeah. But it's like if they're, it's like the zoning was done 20 years ago. It's no longer equitable. It's not okay to come into a low-income community and tear down their homes and rent control homes because they're crappy or falling apart or whatever. These are the oldest homes in the city, but also there's a history here. A working class community. It's very strong.
Right.
So it's a form of violence to just come in and erase just because you can, but it's that the city makes it that they can even more because they grant entitlements and these things aren't by right.
Yeah, one thing I'm seeing is like they're chipping away at, rent controlled units, which is not good, right? We want to try to preserve as many as we can.
Well, that's part of what they were successful in doing in the loopholes. Like I said earlier, when a development comes in like this and they don't want to build no low income housing, or even if they're required to, they can actually pay into a fund. So that's been around for a long time. Even if you look at the Quimby Fund, which was with the parks, if you were required to have some type of art or green space, and you didn't want, your project wanted to opt out, you would actually pay the city to opt out. So it was an incentive for the developers to just say, hey, we're not doing no affordable housing, so we'll pay the fee. And then it's up to the city then to decide where will they spend it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mhm.
That should have never happened. And so they also have these incentives of, like, bringing lots together. So when we ask ourselves, is our city planning the city for the citizens, or are the developers planning it? Because when you look at the rules and regulations, they definitely benefit the developer more than anybody. And so that's why some of these letters and looking at the demolition is to figure out what are their intentions, because obviously someone who owns those properties on Albion that can sit there and hold them for 5 years without collecting rent while paying taxes in LA. And if they're not the inheritor and they were reassessed to the actual taxes, which are very high, I mean, who could sit there and put that much money a year in that? You know?
Well, he's still got the house, so that owner owns the houses right there on Avenue 17, right in the park there. It's like a apartment building, and it goes all the way to the back. So he's getting that income, but I don't know if I can, I mean, it's all public information, but this person's the head of the Chamber of Commerce of Montebello, which is
Well, I mean, even with this, like this letter, let's write it and let's see what LADBS comes back with in CD1. And hopefully they can send someone from CD1, which is a long shot, to actually come and talk to us at our meeting about what's actually going to happen with these.
yeah, it's like that, I was just reading an article going through the old newspapers. There was a electrical company right there before the ice cream, the Albion Dairy, I guess. And there was a huge fire that had to evacuate like 250 people from like an explosion of poison. But that's a Superfund site, the Albion Dairy property. And even in the 70s over there near Albion, they were trying to go industrial, right? So they tore down houses to build scrap yards and stuff. Whatever, it's always been like the poorest residents up against like pesticide factories and stuff. It's like really intense. So yeah, and just the Cornfield Park, right? Like that bike lane on Spring Street Bridge that wasn't put in. When you read that council file, it says they want to make a bike lane to bring tourists over from the Cornfield Park to the Albion Riverside Park to Avenue 17. So that's it's phase 2 of right, Vince, phase 2 of the CASP is the Albion area.
Yes.
So that's going to be the new Chinatown. It's just, if we don't point it out now and say something, the future is going to be a bunch of these condos.
And that's the plan with it. But I think the letter, we should write it and get it out and approve and try to get it approved at our general board.
Right on. All
Okay, I'll take we did the board member, we have a motion and a second. We took public and board comment. So I'm gonna go down the list. Sarah,
Yes.
Benny,
Yes.
Melanie,
Yes.
Nancy,
Yes.
Richard,
Simone.
okay, and Vincent, yes. Motion carries.
It's unanimous, motion carries. Thank you, everybody. All right, and so we go on to one of our final items, item 4E. Discussion and possible action on community impact statement regarding Council File 19-0623. Empty homes penalty. / vacant and habitable housing units. So I have a supporting document of the whole council file. That's from a couple years ago and it's still pending, but the city's trying to make a tax on any property owner who lets his property sit vacant. Yeah. And so the city's still trying to think about it. Yeah, you could click on the link if you want, Vince, and it'll just take you to the council file and there's some files there. So there's a lot of community impact statements on it and the city keeps amending it. So it's like, I guess in New York or wherever, you know, you have these cities that are just empty now. Not just the storefronts, but all the apartments. The city of LA actually also, like with the new housing they're doing, the affordable housing, they don't really, maybe they know now, but they didn't have a clear database of like how many units were even lived in. You know what I mean? They keep them vacant.
Well, this one is actually good. In New York, it works pretty well,
Mhm.
but we don't have the infrastructure right now, and they should be building that, not just passing it. And the penalty should be higher than in New York, because far too often, like this type of penalty, when it goes in, if you do not have a affordable housing registry that the public has access to, the city, and actually on a project we worked with Kenneth Mejia, we actually went around looking at the water bills, which is a public record. So we could tell by the building how many vacancies were there when they didn't have water or electricity for up to a month, right?
Uh-huh.
A lot of them were vacant. A lot were vacant. And so right now, because they hold these investments, right? Because some hope to hit the Olympics and that's a far away way. And it's kind of crazy to think that that's what they're doing. But why do they have so many empty? And they're throughout LA and they're luxury units. So New York, if we had what they had in New York, they would be penalized for them not renting because you would have to reduce the rents until you got a renter in. And if you didn't, which you didn't have to, then you were charged a penalty. And that penalty would carry until you actually got it rented, which in some ways is good. I think LA needs it, but I think for it to be effective, the penalty has to be severe. And right now, I don't think in this one it is severe, but maybe we can put in the letter that it should be more severe, at least a higher amount.
I mean, Vince, what's up with the Costa Hawkins? Like, I know in Lincoln Heights, like there's some people that live in like the big old houses on Griffin, right? But they're not rent controlled anymore because the new owner renovated it to a certain extent or something. Isn't there a loophole with the Ellis Act? Like you take it off the market for 5 years. Isn't it like then it's no longer RSO at a certain point?
It depends on how much they do to the unit that would take it. Well, sometimes it's temporarily because it's not, the law's not really, it's so broad and vague that I've never seen one that's been completely up, but I've seen them give them time off. Eventually they come back and sometimes it gives them enough time off where they can evict somebody.
I mean,
and not have to pay the high amounts that are required under RSO.
like adaptive reuse, like if you live at the brewery, right? Those are old buildings, but they're not rent controlled because they were adapted into housing. Or if you live at the apartments across from the firehouse, the old SRO apartments that they kicked everybody out and made it into an Airbnb legally through the city. They got a change of use for that too. They're adapting a hotel into something else.
And anytime anybody leaves an RSO unit, the landlord has the right to raise the rent to fair market value. So that's why it's so important to try to maintain them with the current tenants, because what we know about RSO is that most of the tenants that that it applies to have lived in their unit for over 15 years or more. And that's the reasons why they have been able to be there without being affected by the economy, whether it's bad or good, because of the 3%. But that 3% also too is proven to be a push out rate. It's a time bomb because your checks don't go up and your income doesn't go up 3% every year. So how can we have a city that has a 3% increase every year when we're not even meeting the paycheck, Like even now with $15 an hour, they're barely catching up to that increase, the cost of living increase.
Yeah, the one thing that's really dangerous in Lincoln Heights is that you may see a house and you think it's a SFD, like a single family home. And single family homes aren't rent controlled unless they have like a back house or any other unit on the property. Once you have another rental unit on the property, boom, the house becomes rent controlled too. So, yeah, you know, one thing, like developers buy the houses and let them sit while they're waiting for the permits to go through. Sometimes they never do. But another thing, sometimes investors just like at the mortuary at 5 Points, right? Where Snake got kicked out. That's been vacant for years now, for maybe 3 years. Above the liquor store, all that. We have so many vacant apartments. If you walk around at night and just see who has the lights on and who doesn't, a lot of the lights are just all out all the time. And the city has a so-called rent registry, but they don't make it public.
Yeah, that's
They're
the
supposed to. So,
So on this one, because I think it's a great idea. I just think we'll tweak it up a little bit on it. But I just think it's the penalties that need to be high. But I'll make a motion to write a letter in favor of Council File 190623, empty homes penalty vacant and habitable housing units. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Benny seconds. Any board member comment? I don't see any. Any public comment? I don't see any. Okay, I'm gonna go down for the vote, Sarah. You ready?
great, yeah.
Okay, this is for council, for a letter in support of Council File 190623. Sarah,
Yes,
Benny,
Yes.
Melanie,
Yes.
Nancy,
Yes.
Richard,
Simon.
and Vincent. Yes, motion carries.
motion carries. Where's my hammer? Motion carries. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for coming out to this meeting tonight.
We just have three more actually.
Mhm.
Future agenda items. I'll
Yeah.
make this announcement. If anybody has any agenda items from the public or board members that you think that the committee should take on or all of us should take on, just send it to either Sarah, myself, or any of the board members, and we will get it to the right people in our committee. But I don't see anybody with their hand up for,
I have an item. So the apartments over at Humboldt and Avenue 25, the Flores Del Val, the low income, the ones that were the Percy Vaz apartments with a covenant, right? That's expiring in a decade or so. So the management company locked all the tenants out of the dumps from accessing the dumpsters to teach them a lesson. And that building has a lot of problems and they're not being, the tenants aren't being heard. And yeah, it's a super sketchy situation going on.
Where was that again?
Over at Humboldt and like Camino a Oro, Flores Del Val, like the ones on Avenue 23, between Avenue 23 and Avenue 25 at Humboldt. With the elevators, and the elevators aren't working, they don't work.
Not
Yes.
very familiar with Humboldt.
What's that? They're the
Not very familiar with
AmCal
Humboldt.
buildings, the AmCal buildings, you know, that come from Lincoln's Cypress stop, and then it goes all the way down to Humboldt, and then it jumps Humboldt to the other side. The developer intentionally put the low income units all on one, you know, like across the street from the whole project.
I'm understanding now. Okay, I know. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
I got it.
But because it's like a federally, you know what I mean? Like state, whatever.
I was under
Covenant
the impression it was
thing,
like
they have to
elderly
deal with
housing.
like weird entities. Yeah.
Okay, so we'll get that one on. Is there anybody else that has any other ones?
They stole my truck.
Yeah, we stole Richard's truck.
Yeah.
Oh,
no, I'm good.
wow.
They
Thank you.
stole my bike.
Oh, man.
Serial stealer.
We're all victims of theft.
Oh, I want to bring up another thing, the bodega. Broadway Bodega.
Well, what about it, Sarah?
Oh,
Bodega.
it says that it's supposed to be a 21 and over beer and restaurant for Dodgers fans.
Hmm.
However, it doesn't have any pending permits or any permits for any sort of construction or anything. So I don't know what the legality is. Like if there's some scam, like, oh, we have a vacant Broadway, let's like paint a bunch of fake businesses on the things for real estate people or something. Vince, what do you think? Like if there's a vacant storefront and then I just paint like, like pet spa, but there never is a pet spa there. But it's like, are you like, if you have a business and the thing painted on the thing isn't even there, are they allowed to do an illegal sign like that? Because it just seems so weird to me.
Painting the sign, as long as it's not a structural sign where it's put in, it's permissible.
I don't think so in the CDO.
Well, they haven't, because I never seen a permit where you have to put up for a painted sign. Because when they paint their walls or for Santa Claus or murals, they're not required. But what you can do is when a business is conducting, like if they're actually conducting business in LA, they do have to have a license, and that license has to be registered with the city of LA. So that's one way of reporting the business if it looks not legitimate, because there are businesses that establish themselves, sometimes fully legal and sometimes illegal, and all they are they're funneling money. We had a lot of those in Echo Park. They just open up like one day out of the week or something, or someone's moving in there. But in reality, and you go and you look on their tax forms, and yeah, I mean, it's crazy. They're making all this money in 1 hour. So, but it's something, the first thing we look through is the business license. If they don't have that, that's the first step to be able to contact the department that deals with it and report the business to see if somebody will be sent out to check for the license.
Right. Yeah.
We should set something up like that just to have on the website so people can say, whenever you see these businesses pop up, step one will be look for the license. And if it's ever open and you have a chance to go in, look on the wall, those licenses must be put up in plain sight, especially if you have, like, you're selling food. There has to be a food handler's license and the health department license, along with the city, and the tax board license. So all those things have to be present. If they're not on command, they have to present.
Yeah. It's just like, it sucks because like Lincoln Heights is like, you can't copyright a town or whatever, but it's our name of our neighborhood. And it's like the businesses can just, it says like Lincoln Heights on the building, and this company that never talked to our community ever, and it says that it exists as a thing, whatever. But we have to be, it's just weird. They don't have any alcohol permits or anything. I don't know. It's just weird. It seems like some real estate thing. I don't know what's going on.
Well, we just got to look, like I said, if it's taking money in, you need to find if it has all those permitting things. Alcohol is number one. We all know they need permits. That's a separate permit in itself. So if
What
they
if
don't
you
have
make
any
a
of that,
sign for a company that's not real?
well, it's done all the time. That's what an LLC is. It's not really a real company. I mean, when you look at the business system, the way it works in California, the creation of LLCs was to create a front because you didn't want to be seen or sued.
Right.
It's no different than painting that on. You can run as a legitimate business, but technically, when it comes to legal things, I could just dissolve it and it's as good as being fake. And good luck trying to come after me. That's just American business.
Well,
But no, we should bring it up on the next one.
yeah, all right.
Okay, I don't
I'll
see
wait
any
for that.
more, and I don't see any from the public, so.
That's
we can close-
diabolical.
It
Cool.
is. We'll close item 5 and then item 6.
Oh, yeah, item 6, non-agenda public comment. Last call. If there's anybody from the community who has a comment, they just want to talk for 2 minutes about something that's not on the agenda, about anything, you have 2 minutes to speak. Please raise your hand or press *9.
I don't see any.
Oh, all right.
Okay,
Vince's
make-
item.
I'll make the final motion to adjourn because I know everybody's tired. Is there a second? Is there-
Second.
Fourth.
I thought people would jump at that one. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Hi.
Aye.
All abstain, none, opposed, none. Okay, our meeting officially ends at 7:39. Thank the public and the board members for their time. We'll see you all at the general board meeting.
August 4th. Be there. Marco.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.